Today we're going to be talking about my initial thoughts on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So let's do this. What's up, YouTube? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are talking about my initial thoughts on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, aka Pocket 4K because it's entirely way too long. I've had the Pocket 4K for a little bit over a month now, and I keep getting questions on what I think about the camera, so I figured this would be a good time to give you my initial thoughts. So without further ado, let's get into my pros and cons on the Pocket 4K. So starting with the pros, my biggest pro for this camera is the image quality. The image quality is the biggest reason why people pick up this camera. For the price that it is, for the size that this camera is, it produces such an amazing image. Now I talk about the size of the camera, but I have my Pocket 4K rigged out, so it's a lot heavier than the GH5 or any mirrorless cameras I've used before. On average, my rig is about 7 to 9 pounds. And I'm not gonna lie, I will gladly bring that around to get the image that this camera produces. It is such a really good image. I have been so impressed with it. And on top of that, partnering it with a really good lens, you will get just a breathtaking image. I have really been impressed with the overall image of this camera. As I said before, the biggest reason why people buy this camera is for the image that it produces. So that is a huge pro for me. The next pro for me is the fact that this has the ability to film in RAW as well as ProRes. The fact that I can film RAW all internally on this camera is amazing. And if you're not familiar with filming in RAW, basically in a nutshell, what it does is it gives you more flexibility in post to work with the colors as well as the exposure levels. So that's a huge benefit, is the fact that you can film in RAW internally on the Pocket 4K. I don't need an external recorder to film to, and because it's a version of RAW that's developed by Blackmagic, it is a really efficient version of RAW that the Pocket 4K is able to use while also not having huge files to work with. I've been able to use RAW and film on a single 128 SD card for a lot of my YouTube content, and that is very impressive. Now there's some smaller things I may mention in some other videos or like a full-on review. Things like you can easily adjust your frame rates a lot easier than some mirrorless cameras. Things like the touch screen. The touch screen, don't even get me started on the touch screen. It is one of the most amazing touch screens you'll ever use on a camera. I think. I haven't used that many cameras, but it is such an amazing touch screen. You can literally touch everything and it's super responsive and it's huge. So some of those smaller things I may get into in other videos just to make sure that this video is not incredibly long. So the last pro that I'll mention then is price. If you've heard anybody talking about the Pocket 4K, most likely there's two things that come up. One is image quality, and then the other is price. This camera comes in around $1,300. And for $1,300, you can film in RAW. You have an amazing image quality, really good low light performance, even just the pros that I've mentioned. And some of those smaller pros I'm not mentioning. So you have an amazing camera for $1,300. If that doesn't get you excited about this camera, I don't know what will. This is such an amazing camera for new filmmakers, indie filmmakers that are on a really small budget. Price is a huge pro for me. This is where there's a plot twist. This is where I'm going to play into the cons. The first con for me is the price. The reason why price is a con for me is while the camera itself is $1,300, this camera is meant to be a modular camera. I believe it was Caleb Pike that talked about this is basically the poor man's RED. If you've ever seen a RED or used a RED, you know that you are going to have to modify that camera because basically what you're getting is the brains of a cinema camera. And that's exactly what the Pocket 4K is. Because the touchscreen does not tilt in any way, if you want any type of low shots, you'll need a monitor. The battery life on this camera is awful, and so you'll need another power solution. Now, a lot of the things that I've done for my rig are very budget friendly, so I am going to have a whole video dedicated to my rig and what I've used for my rig, but those are some things you'll have to think about. I will say all in all, I owned some of the things that I used for this camera already, but all in all, I probably spent over $2,000 on everything I have on this camera right now. So while the camera itself is $1,300, keep in mind you'll need more than just the camera to get everything that you want out of this camera as far as performance. And a part of that is storage. While I mentioned that the RAW you're filming in is a very efficient version of RAW, you still are going to have some very large files. I'm going to take a guess of how big this file for just this talking portion is, and we're going to play a little game. I'll put this on the screen of how close I get. But I'm going to say this is going to be close to 90 gigabytes. And that's roughly about 45 minutes to an hour of talking is about 90 to 100 gigabytes. So keep that in mind. While these are really robust files, and that's amazing for post-production, you're gonna need some more drive space. Now, another con for me is gonna be the overall workflow. While this camera does produce some amazing images, if you're not familiar or you're not comfortable with color grading, the image that you get may not be as amazing as everyone says it is, especially if you record everything in the film profile, because that image is gonna be the flattest that you can get. That's amazing for those of us that like to color grade in post and like to preserve that high dynamic range. But if you're primarily making online content and you're not used to color grading, or that's not a part of your workflow, you may have a rude awakening when you start using this camera and you have to work for that amazing image. As I said before, the image that this camera produces is amazing, but you need to know what you're doing to get that image right where you want it. For me, that excites me. I want to know more about color grading. I want to get better at color grading. So that's really awesome and really exciting to me. But if that's not something you're interested in, this may not be the camera for you. So that's really all my cons. Now, those are some pretty substantial cons. And that's where I want to get into my overall thoughts or conclusion. I'm going to go ahead and say this camera is not for everyone. If you're an online content creator and you just want to shoot a video and have quick turnaround time and just very little time editing, this camera is 100% not for you. So people I think this camera is amazing for is indie filmmakers, new filmmakers that are on a budget, people that are trying to take a next step in the quality of their filmmaking. That's who I think this camera is for. Again, this camera is not for everyone. I personally love this camera, but it is not for everyone. That is it for me. I hope this video is helpful for you, giving you some insight on the good and the bad of the Pocket 4K. Now, I will be leaving some links below, some affiliate links below. I'll leave one to lens rental so you can potentially rent this camera before buying it. Do that because you may find out that you don't like this camera at all. Also leave an affiliate link to Amazon if you do want to purchase this camera. And again, those are affiliate links, so those do help support the channel if that is something you're into. Also, if you want to help support the channel, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. If you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. And as always, thank you guys for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe, be happy, wash those hands, and I'll see you here next time. Peace. Well, I have a lens hood on now. This doesn't work. This is my new exit. I'm just gonna close the lens hood. Nope, wrong way. Bye. So if you're still here, thank you for joining us for the SD Single Space Challenge watch along. Today is a very special entry for me. I actually said this for the last one, but today is a very special entry as well. Today's entry is from my good friend Pav from the channel PavSZ. If you are interested in camera gear, check out his channel. He does a lot of Sony-centric gear reviews. And so if you're interested in that, check out his channel. But his entry is amazing. Matter of fact, I think it may be the best yet. No offense to anyone that has submitted entries, but I was blown away. Pav reviewed a really awesome macro lens last week, and he filmed the SD Single Space Challenge from a lot of the macro shots. It's a macro video around ants and a really awesome poem. I'm actually gonna get Pav to do a lot of my voiceovers because it's really calming and amazing. So yeah, Pav, I'm gonna hire you to do all of my voiceovers for my documentaries. So kick back, relax, and enjoy Pav's entry into the SD Single Space Challenge.
Such a little thing we call the ant. It seems he has no word for can't. They climb up over, around, and through. It seems there is nothing ants can do. They never quit, they never stay. They always find another way to get to where they need to go. I wonder how they seem to know. This bug, so small, this tiny speck, can teach us all how to earn respect.
Okay, That gave me chills because I felt like I was watching like an actual documentary about ants, and it just blew me away. I felt like I was watching like a Netflix special on like Crazy Earth or something like that. Just an amazing, amazing short film. Pav, thank you again for submitting your entry. It means a lot to me. Make sure to go check out Pav's channel if you're interested in Sony-centric gear reviews. He does a really awesome job and he has a really awesome accent. So check him out, give him some love. So I'm gonna go. I actually have a call with another amazing YouTuber. More to come. See you guys later. Peace. I don't know what my hands are doing at this point.